Got it. I know from experience, you don't want to get underneath those guys. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Papa Got a GoPro. We are back at Bahia Principe Luxury Akumal for Walkaround 2025. Oh no! We got caution tape. Something's roped off over here. What the heck? I can't imagine what catastrophe would be causing this. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Give me that like button. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Papa needs all the help we can get. Now this is new. A large full shade canopy. What kind of nonsense we got going on over here? So here we are in the sports bar. This is the game room area. Foosball and air hockey. 40 pesos for a game. That's about $2 US. So I'm coming through with it empty, nothing going on in here. If I have time later after dark when it's busy with the lights on, I'll come through. Not a bad place to hang out in the evenings, to have a drink before dinner, etc., etc. And there is the location where you can make your restaurant reservations with those guys in there if you weren't able to do it online before you arrived. Here's the bulletin board of the activities and the shows of each night that are happening here at Luxury Akumal. It's right out in front of the Cafe Tequila Cave. Cafe Tequila Cava. Coffee and Tequila Cave, I guess, is the interpretation for that. Here's the auditorium. Well, we have back to the 80s again tonight. Everybody knows Papa is incapable of staying up and making it to the shows. The other night at Cancun, there was a duet performance, singing and guitar, and the young lady singing was an excellent singer, true professional. She is part of the Back to the 80s cast. All right, here we are. The new gym location looks much nicer. Wow. So here in the lobby shop, they're having The last sail. Really, that's what it says. The last sail. So doing a temperature comparison, this water feels really nice. Just a little cool and refreshing, not at all like the swimming pools. So if you want to get in the water, this is the place to do it. And I don't know if it's just me misremembering, but there's a lot more sand out here underfoot in the water than in years past. While there's less sand up on the beach, it is less rocky underfoot out here, but it's still, you need sandals or water shoes or something, unless you have really tough feet, but I don't, so I have my sandals on. Here we are at the Aquario snack bar. Let's see what they've got to snack on.